Hi, my name is Stephen Sampson and I am studying International Aid and Development in Practice. Just to set the scene, the global poverty line is $1.90 US per day, as according to the World Bank in 2017. In 2014, Cambodia had a poverty rate of 13.5%, reduced from 47.8% in 2007, reaching $1,230 per annum in 2017, which equates to $3.36 a day. There has been a great effort to empower women in the lower economic areas through microcredits. Women have traditionally not have a lot of control over their finances. It has been a male-dominated area, and these microcredits has seen the ability of women to set up their own small businesses. The project that we've been studying is trying to identify the potential impacts of microcredits when used by women in the Siem Reap area. Gender inequality is a huge issue in a lot of Asian areas, and Cambodia is certainly no exception. And women do need to be more empowered and to make a positive contribution to developing their own community and their family. What is the empowerment of women? Gender is a social construct. Each culture, gender has assigned roles, responsibilities and obligations. That can be seen particularly throughout the Southeast Asian area. Cambodia is no different from a lot of these areas. The women are expected to do a lot more in general than the men do. Women are quite often responsible for tending the fields, raising the family, doing a lot of the social work, whereas quite often the males do very... Culture determines, at the end of the day, access to education, political power, social and economic opportunities, and in the lesser well-off regions of Cambodia, the male dominates everything. The females have very little power. In these countries, the better educated a woman is, the better off she is in terms of maternal guidance, parenting. She has far less risk of losing a child, and far less risk. There is a huge problem with STDs in Cambodia, particularly AIDS, that is running rampant in Cambodia at the moment. And the better educated these people are, the far less chance they have of falling susceptible to these problems. Wherever health and education nutrition needs are met, and overall well-being levels are increased, as well as the general health of the population. The huge problem is educating men in these countries, or particularly Cambodia, or anywhere in Southeast Asia, is about the equal rights of women. They don't see it as necessary, they see it as their right to be in control. Increasing employment opportunities can also help reduce this resistance to allowing women to have any control and power. Changing gender roles in society through transformation and restriction of traditional roles is probably, it's going to be an ongoing problem, and it's going to take many, many years before they will allow this change to happen, because at the moment the male does dominate the society. Women must be given access to equal opportunities, and at the moment they are not. They are considered, at the end of the day, unfortunately, second-class citizens. And this is an attitude that must be changed within men. We must ensure that women have access to funding. Or those countries need to make sure they have access to funding. Because at the end of the day, there is violence amongst these populations, and if they decide to leave their husbands or whatever, and they have no access to funding, they become extremely vulnerable. As I said, the problem with the women in these cultures is that at present they are expected to fulfil two roles. It may be going out and ploughing the field. It may be just doing their parenting. It may be a lot of other jobs around the house. But they need to have a more general, equal basis of employment around the house. From my personal experience of a village in Cambodia, the woman grew the rice, did everything around the house, raised the children, and the man's sole job in the household was to make the rice, wine and drink it. And that's all he did. And his wife did everything around him. We need to ensure, or these countries, or any country in the world need to ensure that women get to participate in decision making. And there needs to be an equity in pay rates. And that is worldwide. We have that problem here in Australia. We can have an engineer that's a male and an engineer that's a woman, and the engineer that's a male will get paid more than the woman. It's unjustified and it's unreasonable. So they must work, and we must work to actively stop this sort of discrimination. It is unnecessary and unwarranted. Microcredits. Microcredits has been a way of trying to empower women. There are positives and there are negatives in the microcredits. Whilst many women have taken up the microcredits, what can happen eventually when the microcredits are taken up is they go home and the husband will then take control, which can quite often lead to defaulting on the microcredit. The only winner in some respects of the microcredits is the banks, because they do charge an exorbitant interest rate of around about 24%, nothing that would be accepted in the Western world. But whilst these exorbitant interest rates are charged, some of the women that take up these microcredits have managed to start their small businesses by buying something as simple as a sewing machine and then starting their own business. Other people that have taken them up have lost, and with these microcredits, if you're in a small community and a small village, what can happen is you can be ostracised because the community sees your failure as a loss in their community. And this can be a major issue. So there are arguments for and against microcredits. Microcredits can also lead to a migration of people out of the rural areas. And one thing that I can say, having seen particularly in Vietnam and around the Hoi An area, with increased wealth, people are moving off the land. And there are now, in the last 7 years that I have been travelling there, there are more vacant rice fields than I have ever seen before, because they can get better employment in the tourist area. This has the potential to become a huge problem, because at the end of the day, you've still got to feed those people. And if people are walking away from the land and they are not producing the crops because they can get better money elsewhere, there is going to be a food shortage problem. They already have a food shortage problem, but it is only going to get worse. As you can see behind me, that technology is starting to encroach heavily into the Southeast Asian area. A few years ago this area was watered by hand. Now, as you can see, there is irrigation everywhere, making life easier for the farmers and giving them a better crop during the dry times. Scope of work today. I have done extensive research into the various faults and failings of the economic disparity in these climates, such as Vietnam and Cambodia. And having travelled to Cambodia and Vietnam on many occasions, I can see that there is a lot of work that needs to be done. We need to research the migration brought about through microcredits. It has been having a negative impact. As I said, as I have just said, the migration off the farming land and into the communities is not a positive thing for everybody. There is going to be problems. And whilst I can understand that they would want a better life for themselves and their children, and they want to earn a better pay rate, because at the end of the day, the people who are actually working the land and having their buffaloes pull the plough are living on the poverty line. And they living literally hand to mouth. But they are producing the food and the crops that is desperately needed by these people. And whilst tourism is potential income, the potential income for those related to the tourism industry in Cambodia can vary greatly. It can vary between $1,000 and $30 a month, US. So there is a great disparity there. Cambodia has attained lower middle income status, with the gross national income achieving $1,230 in 2017, which equates to $3.36. It's not a high income, but most of these third world countries do not have a high income in any way, shape or form. They have the rich, who get richer, and the poor, who don't tend to go too far. And unfortunately, that's pretty much a worldwide problem. Recent articles called Microcredits a boom or bone program. It can be a great success, or it can turn into an absolute disaster for some communities. If they default on their loans in their local community, they are greatly ostracised, and it can cause great difficulties for families, and to the point where some of these families have to leave the communities they've lived in all their life. Education. Education is extremely important. It's extremely important for both genders, but particularly for young girls. Young girls and women can find a way out of the poverty trap that they can get well and truly stuck into. Microcredits can be a good thing for these people. Again, it's a double-edged sword. If it's worked well, and with further education, a lot of these young women will learn how to manage their finances and hopefully not allow their male partners to overrun them. That can have devastating effects. So it's just a matter of educating these young women to their rights and to empower them to do the best they can. Expected outcomes. There is need for further research into the microcredits. They can be a potentially very good thing, but research has recently shown that those that have microcredits are not able to put food on the table as easily as those that don't have the microcredits. These people are too busy trying to repay their loan because of the high interest rates that are imposed on them, that they can't put food on the table. Whilst they're making that little bit of extra money, they're spending most of their time trying to repay back the loan. So whether this can eventually be sorted out and get them out of this problem, it's for the banks to decide. Research has shown over the years that microcredits can do great things for communities. They can put a roof over people's heads and they can do a lot of other things. But they're not allowing the families to put food back on the tables like they used to. So there is a lot more research needed, and that's why research into this is very important. At the end of the day, a lot of the people that are only winning out of this situation, unfortunately, is banks. And we know banks at the end of the day always have to make a profit. On a personal level, this research has changed my opinion and the views surrounding the need to further empower women through education and by financially through access to education, healthcare and equity. On a personal level, this research has changed my opinion and views surrounding the need for further empowerment of women, not only financially, but through access to education, healthcare and equity.